next morning, they gear up just before sunrise. They'll be dropping into a landing zone where their team ran in a stiff FARC ground fire just a couple of days ago.
A couple helicopters got shot up on infill. Something like 3 of them got shot up pretty bad. One of those 3 took 15 hits. Something that's on the colonel's mind.
After an hour, they finally spot a viable landing zone several hours hike from their target. Once the choppers lift off, this small team of 30 men is entirely on its own, deep in FARC-controlled territory.
As soon as the helicopters are gone, when you don't hear those rotors overhead, yeah, the feeling sets in like, all right, now it's, game on. Now we really have to make sure everything goes well.
The mission is slated to take 2 hours, but finding the Coke lab won't be easy. Thanks to the choppers, every FARC member within miles already knows they're here.
You just, be on your guard, basically.
The setting may seem peaceful, but a FARC ambush could break the silence at any minute.
There's nothing you can do when the enemy decides to hit you. They either do or they don't.
For now, the surrounding jungle is quiet enough. But 5 hours into the mission, Ed, Carlos, and Gomez's team have yet to encounter FARC fighters or the lab they seek. They are, it seems, entirely lost.
We're obviously been out here a lot longer than we expected or that was planned.
Was it just me? Did I see a team take off straight that way? I thought I saw a team take off.
Unless they backtracked. They might have backtracked.
The longer you're on the ground, it increases the risk of getting in and out of there alive. We're still quite a bit of ways off, so we've still got quite a little bit of ways to go. But we'll get there.
A night in FARC territory will be nearly suicidal.
There's somewhat of an eerier feeling being out there during the night.
The river offers hope they may be getting close. Coke production labs need water to run. A river this large could even serve as a waterway to send product downstream for loading onto subs waiting to head out to sea.
As we get closer to the lab, just be careful where you step, what you touch, and just be cautious.
8 hours after hitting the landing zone, Ed, Carlos, and Captain Gomez's team punch through a jungle clearing and find the target they've been hunting.
It's just down the hill here.
De la coca.
It's all coke leaves.
Coca plantation.
Coke plantation.
Well, we're here at the one of the cocaine base labs.
Food and clothing suggest the traffickers left this place in a hurry and are likely watching them from the surrounding jungle. Just as dangerous are any booby traps they left in their wake.
Don't get too close. Yeah. The dogs right now is checking for explosives.
The DEA treads carefully. IEDs could be anywhere.
They range anywhere between small mines where you step on it, blow a foot or a leg, to the larger mines intending to kill.
A lot of people would call it a cowardly way of doing it, but it's the way wars are fought these days.
Even a bomb-sniffing dog doesn't guarantee safety.
And what people forget is that dog's been humping along like we have, and that dog's tired too. And when you're tired, you get complacent.
They can't be sure the site's completely safe, but must move quickly to scour it for evidence.
We're looking for chemicals, basically all the precursors that they need to process the base cocaine, which are all found here.
Of course, photographs, another piece of evidence.
This thing is already full of cocaine base, ready to be processed. It's a 55-gallon drum, so it can make, this is approximately 100 kilos of cocaine that it can make.
You'd smell it on the way up here. So now what the police are going to do, they're going to prep this place to destroy it. And this is how we get rid of it. This is the fun part.
It's a small win for DEA. But this paste lab was not a high-value target. And they found no solid leads to the FARC commanders or the coke subs they're after.
You know, we've got to identify who they belong to, where the money's going, and where it's coming from.
If one particular lab was supposed to provide the cocaine to one of the semi-submersibles, if we can stop that, that's just less drugs getting to that sub.
Within minutes, they're making their way back to the landing zone as quickly as they can. Because if the burning lab hasn't given away their position to the FARC, these civilians might.
They've stopped this vehicle. They're just going to ask them questions.
We have to assume they're FARC sympathizers, since we're in kind of their area.
As Carlos, Ed, and Gomez's team were finally lifted out of FARC territory, another lab feeding a narco sub lays hidden in the dense terrain. In a few days, Gomez's team will return to find it. But this time, they inadvertently walk into an entire FARC brigade. In Colombia, an anti-narcotics strike team that works closely with DEA is caught in a deadly FARC ambush.
Tenemos que replegarnos y tratar de quedar todos en un mismo sitio. Marica, aquí están tratando de ubicarnos cómo estamos ubicados en este momento.
Allá, acá el fierro.
¿En dónde?
No se vaya a parar, ¿oyó? No se vaya a parar.
In the distance, Captain Gomez's forward squad comes under intense FARC fire.
¡Estamos en combate, cazador! ¡Estamos en combate!
Gomez calls for an evac chopper to get the film crew and his wounded out of the danger zone.
Ha llegado más enemigo, entonces nos tienen ya cercados.
Sergeant Cortez and the cameraman make their way to a nearby hilltop landing zone.
Mi capitán, ya estamos en el punto.
But when the evac chopper tries to land, it's driven away by heavy FARC ground fire.
You know, friendly forces have been hit pretty hard. They can't get helicopters into the area. Everything started to go downhill, pretty quickly. It was a surprise, being that we knew those guys.
Míralo.
They got hit by hand grenades and then small arms fire from all directions. That confusion, it split everybody up.
Ahí se va moviendo, ahí veo otros 4.
The enemy knew exactly what they were doing.
Ya, cuento 10.
They were so outnumbered on the ground. It was an estimated 150 guys.
Para nosotros es un trabajo normal como cualquier otro.
¿Y su familia qué dice?
¿Familia? Familia no le gusta.
The FARC fighters are getting closer.
Colocó buena esta vaina. Puta. Fantasma y en la pía ya listo.
Dígale, mi cliente, acá no tenemos dónde cubrirnos.
Ya no están sacando el clavo mal parido. Ahí. Están llegando por la parte de atrás en el centro, mi capitán. Se están metiendo en la malaria.
The cameraman is hit in the arm.
Granada, hey.
Next to him, Sergeant Cortez lies mortally wounded.
When I found out he had been hit, that was definitely that definitely hit home.
Chaleco, de este.
Oye, yo me abro porque con ustedes soy un blanco, ¿vale?
The second soldier has been hit by a FARC grenade. The cameraman crawls into the brush and will soon be taken prisoner by the guerrillas who overrun the hill.
Enemy forces were up there kicking around the bodies, ensuring that, whoever had been hit was actually dead.
Two weeks later, Ed and Carlos attend a memorial service for the dead. Captain Gomez has survived and meets Carlos for the first time since the ambush.
¿Y cómo fue la herida? ¿De una granada?
Yo estaba disparando, como ya los teníamos a menos de 7 metros. Un disparo entró por acá, me destrozó el dedo, pegó en el fusil y salió.
Sí, wow.
Es que no tengo palabras, pero por lo menos.
No, el acompañamiento de ustedes es genial, señor Lara. Muchísimas gracias.
Sí.
We lost comrades that were working with us, and it hits home. One day working with them, and a couple of days later, they're gone.
It could have been us involved on that operation or coming out on the short end of that stick, or being one of those guys that didn't make it out. It's funny how quickly you're able to consider them your friends. And then it hurts that much more when you realize that, a few days later, that stuff like that happens to them.
In the end, 4 Colombian soldiers die in the attack. The FARC will later claim to have killed 15. The cameraman is held hostage for 1 month and then released. As Ed and Carlos mourn their dead, 400 miles to the west, DEA sub-hunters Tony and Sam's investigation is heating up again. Their drug sub-informant may now have the intel they need to strike. DEA agents Tony and Sam are heading to the city of Tumaco on Colombia's southwest coast to reconnect with an informant who went out to mark a sub-launch site a week ago.
The geographical location of Tumaco lends itself for traffickers to easily conceal and safeguard their semi-subs.
While here, the agents must keep a low profile.
It is no joke. These are the front lines. The drug trafficking organizations that we're looking into, they're infiltrated everywhere. They're pretty much the eyes and ears for the heads of these terrorist organizations. It is very, very, very dangerous. This is the one that really sends shivers up my spine whenever we have to travel down here.
Fresh in their minds is a recent attack on the local police station, which was blown to bits by a motorcycle bomb.
I believe it was approximately 11 dead. Classic example of the war on drugs. You take one of our vessels, one of our assets, we'll retaliate by sending a strong message and blowing up a police station out here, not just killing police officers, but civilians.
Problem now is that their informant is not returning their calls.
We have been trying to get a hold of the informant, and as of yesterday night, his phone is off.
There's no telling whether his cover's been blown or he's gotten cold feet.
There are times, during investigations that informants leave you high and dry.
Worst case scenario, and the one I don't want to think about, is that the informant was made out and they probably have him held up.
As Sam awaits the informant's call, Tony continues the sub-hunt and heads out with the Colombian Coast Guard commandos and an undercover DEA colleague. The men want to get a feel for the mangroves of the region.
An informant comes into this area, it's almost impossible for us to be out here with him to provide some type of security or surveillance measures. Here, he's on his own.
If their informant's still alive, he's likely making his way through the same liquid terrain.
In these areas, bad things can happen. It's not uncommon to have lookouts